Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kathy Foster, Vice President of Global Government Relations for eBay, and we are grateful to be joined today for our exciting webinar with the senior U.S. Senator from Texas, John Cornyn. He has served Texas as a judge and attorney general, and now as a U.S. Senator, he has earned a reputation as an articulate and powerful voice for Texans in Washington. He's known for reaching across the aisle to get things done, and as he has done recently, passed coronavirus relief legislation. I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to Senator Cornyn.
Well, thanks, Kathy. Thanks for letting me join all of you. And thanks to the folks, all the folks at eBay for organizing the call. Obviously, some of our country's best tech companies have chosen to do business in Texas. And of course, eBay is no exception with its office in Austin, which has been operating in the Lone Star State since 2007. And we all know these are difficult times in many ways. We're simultaneously experiencing a pandemic, an economic reversal and slowdown, and a difficult but necessary discussion about racial injustice. I want to thank each of you for what you've done to help your communities during this unprecedented time. And I particularly want to commend you for the charitable contributions you've distributed through your $1 million customer match to benefit Feeding America, Direct Relief, the Opportunity Fund through eBay for Charity. Thank you also for your $15 million eBay Foundation grant program to support small businesses and medical organizations, including your $1 million bonus employee gift matching program. I know you've pledged 100 million. These are some big numbers. 100 million for your up and running program, which will make a big difference to struggling small businesses. And I'm proud of eBay's incredible example of corporate responsibility. And I hope other companies will notice and follow suit. Now, let me talk briefly about what Congress has done in response to this pandemic. I think it's fair to say no one saw this coming. And that will be the subject of a lot of review and after action reports. But in the meantime, we are doing everything we can to fight this virus, both as a public health challenge and as an economic challenge. And so far, Congress has passed 4 bills to bolster our response on both of those fronts. We know the first and biggest challenge was for our healthcare providers and other essential workers who had no choice but to show up and go to work every day and to deal with COVID patients in their hospitals. We provided billions of dollars to support our hospitals, increase the availability of protective equipment, and desperately needed items like ventilators. So we know that resources need to keep coming to the front line to win this fight, and we're going to continue to arm our healthcare workers with what they need to succeed. This situation was truly unprecedented because it's not just a healthcare crisis, it's an economic crisis riding on its back. Of course, just because paychecks stopped coming in doesn't mean the bills stopped too. So we tried a number of different things to address the economic hardship associated with the mitigation efforts. First, we sent a direct payment to those who needed it most. Those making up to $75,000 a year already got a $1,200 direct payment. A family of 4 can qualify for up to $3,400. And so far, $22 billion has been paid out in the form of direct assistance to Texans alone. We also established the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses, something I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This was perhaps the single most successful part of the CARES Act that we passed in March. And as you know, were low interest loans, and a portion of which could be forgiven based on maintaining your payroll. As I said, the program has been extremely popular, and the best evidence of that is 2 weeks after the lending began, the fund was exhausted. That was $350 billion. And then the Small Business Administration stopped accepting applications. Well, fortunately, we were able to replenish that fund with another $320 billion. And so far, Texans have received more than $40.5 billion across more than 372,000 individual PPP loans since the program was first launched. I'm pleased that the Senate's first iteration of the next coronavirus relief bill, called the HEALS Act, contains an additional $90 billion for the PPP, in addition to the $130 billion still remaining. And while this was a starting point for negotiations, I'm hopeful that future bills will continue to build on the success of the PPP program. So once again, let me thank eBay for the opportunity to join you. And I hope when we can have in-person visits again, I can come see you in your Austin office once everything settles down. But for now, I look forward to hearing from some of your great Texas-based eBay sellers on the impact of the coronavirus and the impact it's had on their e-commerce business, and then answer a few questions. So let me turn it back over to Kathy to get us started.
Thank you, Senator. And first of all, thank you for all you're doing on behalf of Texas and frankly across the country relative to the whole COVID relief bill process. And like you mentioned, we'd love to have you come visit our Austin facility, hopefully when we're able to meet in person. So now we're going to hear from some fantastic Texas small businesses. We'll hear about each seller's business, their history with eBay, and how they've been faring with the COVID crisis. First, we have Martha Oberman from MHO Distributors in Dallas. So Martha?
Hi. Thank you for participating, Senator, and for listening to us and helping us. We've been on eBay since 1998. We started because we collect miniature liquor bottles, and someone told us there was this new site called eBay where we could add to our collection. So we had some duplicates, decided to sell. We needed a new computer. We said, let's see if we can pay for our computer by selling our mini liquor bottles. We did. We paid for it within a month. And we said, this is fun, let's continue. But they're not fun to ship, and I do the shipping. So we sell ephemera, collectible paper. We specialize in vintage tourist brochures. Menus is our real specialty, vintage menus. We sell all over the world. eBay has been good for us, and COVID has not impacted our selling side. That's been good because we like to say we sell memories and nostalgia, and people are very nostalgic during this. But where it's been hurting us is getting it to our customers, the post office. Everything we sell is under £1, so we ship USPS. It's lower cost, so shipping at UPS or FedEx is not really an option. We're finding that it's taking longer. Things are going different places. We shipped something to Hong Kong. It ended up in customs in Brazil. Fortunately, I found that on Facebook, a lot of these places the postal services have a presence. So I emailed or sent a message to Brazil, and it's on its way to Hong Kong. But that's where our impact is. Also in getting in inventory, we like periodically to take a trip and pick up some inventory. Right now, we are staying pretty close to home. I get out, I go to the post office every day. And other than that, we don't go out except maybe to go to Costco every couple of weeks or the grocery store. So that's been a big impact. So we've been getting our merchandise by buying it online and looking for auctions. But we, as a home-based business with just the two of us, we really didn't qualify for the payroll protection because we have no employees. We don't have rent because we're working out of our home. So the financial stimulus really didn't apply to our business at this time. But other than that, if you could just fix the post office, would be would be thrilled.
Martha, what do we need to do with the post office?
Well, the problem is they've been slammed by COVID. I talked to some people. I sort of believe in picking up the phone, and I'll call the distribution centers and call around the country. I'm not afraid to do that. And it's just their personnel, they're down in personnel, they're down because of the transportation, getting it processed. The items get to the distribution centers. The distribution centers are not processing it fast enough. And I think it's because of their personnel issues, because of so many of them have been hit with the COVID. And our particular post office branch has been terrific. They get our stuff out, but things aren't getting scanned like they should. So, and like I mentioned, something got on a boat to Brazil rather than to Hong Kong. So it's just things like that. But the post office is very important to sellers like us, that's how we get our merchandise to our sellers. And if something happens to the post office, it really impacts us terribly.
Well, thank you for sharing that information.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Martha. I want to move on to our next seller. We'll hear from Alec Featherstone from Freaks and Geeks in Denton, Texas. So, Alex.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for letting me be here, and thank you for everybody for their time. You know, I co-own a business in Denton, Texas, not too far away from Austin, called Freaks and Geeks. We're a vintage video game action figure toy store. So we do retro, vintage memories, just like Martha. When it comes to our business, we actually had to shut our physical location down July 1st. Luckily, we were in the position to do that, and we were able to maneuver the landscape with not only our neighbors in the shopping center, but our landlord at the time. Not every business, as everybody knows, has that ability or has had that ability to do that. That being said, eBay is a big part of our business. Online sales are a big part of our business. But they were never meant to be the anchor for our business. So eBay wasn't able to help us keep our physical location running. I've been selling through eBay personally for over 20 years. I'm 33, so I started when I was about 13. I don't know if that's in the rules and regulations, but needless to say, that's the truth. And it allowed me the flexibility to build up to a physical location. That being said, with COVID-19, I found myself and my entire business pulling ourselves back to where we started, which is eBay. The landscape has changed, but with that and technology changing, we've gained a lot of leverage in the way that we can maneuver our business. We've just started repiloting our business onto eBay full time, and we're seeing our numbers grow once again on eBay. Not in the speed in which we'd like, but partially too, that's our input equals output. When it comes to things like the Paycheck Protection program that you mentioned, the PPP, we were not considered in it, primarily because we are a general partnership. We're not a corporation. We did not pay ourselves. Me and my business owners did not pay ourselves through payroll. We did owner's draws in which we pay our all of our taxes at the end of the year, and we do that. We can do that quarterly. We can do it at the end of the year, but we pay our taxes. There's no paycheck per se. That being said, we were completely skipped over for it. Anytime we tried to apply through different services in which we've had a lot of banking history with, our information was always returned as either non-complete or lacking information that the government was looking for. It was something where we spent a couple of months trying to get stuff through, and because it kept getting sent back, it didn't give us any more information than we needed to fix the problem. So it was like banging our heads against a wall, at which point we needed to pivot. And our pivoting was figuring out what we needed to do to shore up our losses at the time and to make sure we weren't taking advantage of anyone else in our community by exiting when we exited. We were able to build that plan, execute the plan, and now we're back in the rebuilding stages of our business. That being said, a big component of it is COVID and the possibility of it changing or ending, and none of us know that timeline. So the reality is right now, we are an eBay online business, and we will be for the foreseeable future, just due to the landscape we have right now. That being said, when it comes to fixing things, you know, it's not a singular person's burden. So I understand, Senator, that you listening to us and you talking with us, that it's not on your shoulders alone. I do appreciate you listening to us. When it comes to specific things and changing, I just, you know, I need to see personally, as an American citizen, as a voter, I just need to see less friction in everything and just more communication in everything.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alec. And lastly, we have Rhea Kimbell of Rhea Music and More in New Braunfels. Rhea?
Hi, I'm originally from San Marcos, Texas. I started selling with eBay in 2003 as a hobby. In 2011, after a 20-year career in banking, I decided to take my business to a new level. Over the years, I've specialized in collectibles, jewelry, and music. In managing my way through COVID-19, I have been fortunate in that a significant percentage of my business is music related. I have resurrected, so to speak, my father's record label from the 1960s and 1970s. I have a large inventory of new old stock vinyl, from most of which is Tejano, Latino, and a little bit of rock and roll. During trying times like these, people look for distractions to escape. Music has always provided an outlet and played a part in that recovery. The cancellation of some major events in my area, such as South by Southwest in Austin, of which eBay was scheduled to have a meaningful presence by way of a showcase of small business owners in the area, and two other major vinyl record conventions, one of which is the largest of its kind in the United States, has certainly had an effect on the growth of my company. As a result, music lovers have been forced to go virtual and are looked to purchase music for their entertainment. eBay provides an excellent platform for which to do just that. I am still hopeful that I will be able to take advantage of one or more of the programs offered through the CARES Act in order to continue my 2020 business plan of expansion by way of an additional employee to assist me with the endless research into the music and the whereabouts of the talented people involved. I am obviously in the business to make a profit and provide for my family, but a second goal, especially important to me and part of my long-term business plan, is to ensure that the numerous musicians and writers of the music my dad recorded finally receive some much deserved recognition and compensation. Over the years that my dad's label lay dormant, a significant amount of the recordings were pirated. As part of the resurrection of the label, it is a goal of mine to see to it that profits are recouped and redistributed to the rightful parties. In closing, I would like to thank you, Senator Cornyn, for your continued support of the music industry, including the support of the Music Modernization Act, the recent introduction of the Save Our Stages Act, and the bill that just passed, the National Museum of the American Latino Act. I look forward to one day having the opportunity and honor of displaying my father's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Very powerful stories. Thank you everyone for sharing them with us. I think I'll start with just a few questions for Senator Cornyn, and then we'll move to the sellers. But Senator, let's chat about Texas, which is in the middle of reopening businesses. Just wanted to hear from your perspective how things are going, and what are the issues that you may be concerned about or paying attention to as the reopening continues?
Well, Kathy, there's no playbook for this, as you know, and so we've had to try to do the best we can under very dynamic circumstances. And it seems like the virus is evolving in a sense. One of the biggest mysteries of it is that about 40%, give or take, of the people who get the virus don't experience any symptoms, which is good for them because they don't feel sick. They don't have to go to the hospital, but it's bad because they can be exposed to people who are vulnerable, which if you look at the various charts, people over 80, people in nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities and the like are particularly vulnerable, as are people with underlying chronic illness. So, as I said, we've been fighting a two-front war. One is our healthcare professionals have been trying to deal with these cases. We've been trying to all together by bending the curve, as we've heard, through the mitigation efforts, try to keep our hospitals from being overrun, particularly the intensive care units. But that means that even hospitals are laying people off because they're not doing elective surgery. But as one administrator pointed out to me, what's elective today may be an emergency in a few months. So this has been very, very challenging, I know, for everybody. Right now, the biggest question, I was down the Rio Grande Valley yesterday, and they've had a particularly bad time of it. They're at the border, a lot of multi-generational families, and they don't have the infrastructure, medical care infrastructure that they needed. So the administration sent down a number of uniformed military support staff to help relieve some of the nurses and the doctors who are just exhausted from working 24/7 dealing with this continued surge of cases. But now the next big issue is if you're a parent and your child or children is school age, under what circumstances are you going to, is your child going to continue their education? I think it wisely is being made, those decisions being made at the local level, not out of Washington, D.C., because things are a little bit different depending on where you live. And some people are maybe a little more risk averse than others and maybe would prefer online education, but most school districts are doing some kind of hybrid. But the fact is, I think while we are investing billions of dollars in coming up with the research and the clinical trials for a vaccine, we're probably going to have to learn to live with this virus for the near term. But as I always point out, we've got a number of octogenarians in the United States Senate. Those happen to be people over 80, the most vulnerable cohort of individuals. And we've learned to do what you've learned to do, what all of us have learned to do, which is wash our hands, maintain social distancing, masking when you can't, and then stay home when you're sick. So each of us has a role to play in slowing the spread. But this virus has a mind of its own. It doesn't follow any playbook or any rules we might like to impose on it. So we are frankly doing the best I think each of us is able to in a very unusual, really an unprecedented environment. But maybe, just maybe, we'll get a vaccine by the end of the year in the fourth quarter. But not even that is going to be a silver bullet, because vaccines don't deal with mutating viruses. And that's what the common flu is a virus. And of course, that's the reason why the flu vaccine doesn't necessarily work 100%. I think most estimates maybe up to 60% effectiveness. So I know this has been a huge challenge on everyone. And I'm I'm glad to listen to your sellers here today because, you know, when we were designing some of these economic relief programs, we didn't necessarily understand all the different sort of ways that people do business operate. So this is very helpful. And I hope if we're successful, and I hope we will be passing another bill, I can take this into account and see if we can find ways to provide relief in a way that helps everybody.
That's great. So why don't I move to some questions for the sellers? And I think that may even provide some input for you as you think through, you know, the next funding bill. So first, Alec, we're so glad to have you on the platform and glad you've been able to succeed when you had to close doors. What are your plans moving forward? Do you expect to keep selling online, or do you have other plans for the future?
Yeah, so when it comes to the future, you know, we have built a community around here within our community for a long time. The people that we serve, people who are normally called nerds and geeks, you know, they look for like-minded people, and they found it in us. We've been in business as a physical location for almost 6 years. Like I said, that had to end on July 1st. But we have a very, very strong online presence, so we continue to communicate through platforms like Facebook, eBay, things like that, with our community that we've built. That being said, moving forward, eBay has always been a component of our business. It was always looked at as a store 0.5. So we had our physical location, which was store location 1, and eBay was our store location 1.5. Anytime we wanted to open up or thought about opening up another physical location, an eBay component for that physical location was always part of its success. It was never the cornerstone, but moving into a world that we're in right now, online is going to be stronger for the time being, and in a sense will be stronger for this. That being said, we have promised our local community that we are doing everything we can to look at real estate as soon as possible to reopen, because we need those people that trusted us with letting us see who they really are and letting the world see who they really are, have a place where they felt comfortable being that. So we need to open up again. For all intents and purposes, we looked at ourselves as those kind of people who felt outcasted and those people who felt alone. We felt like we were their local club, and we need to open that again. It needs to happen. Of course, it has to be safe, but you know, they need that. We need that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be able to open soon as the pandemic moves on. So Martha, I know you travel for your inventory. You touched a little bit on this in your opening remarks, but how's the crisis impacted your ability to keep your store stocked, and what kind of demand have you seen?
We, the travel part really was sort of a bonus in that when you work out of your home and there's just the two of you, being able to go out and travel and to pick up your merchandise, we have found that we are still able to find merchandise. We search for auctions, online auctions, buy through Facebook, buy a lot through eBay. The price point, we are fortunate in that our margins are such that we can have a little more play than someone who's selling a commodity where it's, you know, they buy a watch and there's a big front end cost. But it's just not being able to get out and go travel and find the merchandise and having to have it shipped, and again, waiting for it to arrive and not being able to see it and touch it. And because when you sell paper, you have to know that it's in good condition and there are no odors and there, you know, no spot stains, whatever. So there is a disadvantage, but we're rolling with the punches. We're, you know, you sort of go with the flow and work around it and make the best of it and do.
That's great. I'm happy to hear you're still finding inventory in creative ways. I know the senator has another appointment, so we'll have to stop our webinar now. I would just like to thank everybody, Senator Cornyn and our sellers and everybody watching for participating today. I think this has been just a great opportunity to hear from our sellers and the senator on and how we all can come together and continue to prosper selling online during the pandemic. I don't know, Senator, if you wanted to make any last comments before you leave.
Kathy, let me just say again, thank you very much. You know, we've all done our fair share of Zoom and WebEx and all the other platforms, but it's amazing how much we can get done. And just like your sellers here today have learned to adapt to the new normal, we're all doing that in our own special way. But I'm confident we'll get through this. It's just it's a challenge. It's something none of us anticipated, and I'm glad to hear that the folks you have here today who use eBay are able to continue their businesses. My hope is that people like Alec will be able to open a physical location, and you know, we're all learning how to do it safely, just like we're anticipating that our children will be able to return to the classroom at some point safely and continue their education. I do worry about low-income kids that don't have access to broadband and the hardware, and I hope they don't get left too far behind. But we've been through tough times before. We all try to help each other the best we can, and we'll get through this one too. But thank you for having me, and I learned a lot from listening to your sellers here. And as we continue to work on the next legislation, I'll certainly keep that in mind.
That's great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.